The story of Creole in Venezuela.
48 hours of unique programming exploring our nation's past. American History TV is only on C-SPAN 3.
Oil-rich Venezuela was the fourth most prosperous country in the world, with an average annual income of about $7,500, with only Switzerland, New Zealand, and the United States doing better. In recent years, oil prices have dropped and Venezuela has experienced political and economic turmoil. The country is now number 126 on the list of per capita GDP. Next, People and Petroleum, the story of Creole in Venezuela, a 1950s promotional film by Creole Petroleum Corporation showing the history of its development in Venezuela and what it argues are the many benefits to the country, including health care, education, and infrastructure. At the time, Creole was Standard Oil Company New Jersey's Venezuela affiliate and the world's number 2 oil producer. It dissolved when the country nationalized their oil industry in the 1970s.
Stretching along the eastern shore of Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela is one of the industrial wonders of modern times, the oil-producing complex of the Bolivar coastal fields. More than 2,000 oil wells in ordered ranks, reaching almost to the horizon. One of the largest known oil deposits in the world, this resource has brought a new life to the people of Venezuela. The oil beneath these waters belongs to those people. But the stupendous task of bringing it to the surface, refining and marketing, has been the work of private foreign capital and engineering genius, much of it North American. And half that work has been done by one company, Creole Petroleum Corporation. Creole is an American company, an affiliate of Standard Oil Company, New Jersey, but it operates exclusively in Venezuela, making its headquarters in Caracas, a sparkling modern city whose progress is rooted in oil. From its Caracas offices, this company conducts its business in the interest of the Venezuelan people, as well as its own stockholders. This is the story of an American business firm which has become an integral part of a nation's social and economic progress. Venezuela is a country of great natural resources, but only oil and iron have been tapped on a large scale. This story of oil must begin at this fabulous lake, Maracaibo. Even the history of the nation began here, for these wells on stilts are only the modern successors to something the first explorers found when they entered Maracaibo in 1499. The Indians were living in houses on stilts, as some do today, and from this came the name Venezuela, or Little Venice. Nearby, on the lake shore, oil seeps to the surface. Those first explorers found the Indians using it for medicinal purposes. It was to be more than 4 centuries before development of those oil resources really began. But in the last 30 years, Creole and other companies have built vast installations to tap the oil of Lake Maracaibo. To anchor its wells in water as deep as 100 feet, this company developed its own overwater techniques, methods which later were adapted to offshore oil operations along the North American coast. New platforms are built and wells are drilled on a regular schedule, planned according to the best conservation practices to avoid any waste of the oil beneath the waters of Lake Maracaibo. Simple maintenance and operation require a virtual navy, a fleet of nearly 300 small boats for transporting personnel and supplies, repair facilities that would do credit to a navy yard, even dry docks for the barges and larger vessels. All this just to keep the oil flowing. Lake tankers carry some of this oil away, but the rest goes by pipeline. A pipeline from the shores of Lake Maracaibo to the Gulf of Coro, then under the Gulf to Creole's new Amway refinery on the once barren and desolate Paraguaná Peninsula. Triple pipelines, one carrying water to Amway, bridge the 192 miles. In constructing these lines, the company has developed many new techniques, like coating underwater pipes with special compound to extend their life 5 times. This pipe is about to be dropped to the lake bed as part of the project's longest single stretch of underwater pipeline. Construction and maintenance are an old job to company engineers. Before starting this pipeline, they already had hundreds of miles of underwater pipe servicing the wells in Lake Maracaibo. Not all the oil which reaches Amway by the pipeline is refined. Part is stored, then shipped directly overseas as crude oil. The output of the Amway refinery, more than 200,000 barrels daily, is devoted mainly to production of heavy fuel oil for industrial and heating purposes. For Venezuelan oil is best suited to this use, and not to the lighter products like gasoline derived from North American crude oils. Some of these tankers will carry their loads to the rest of Latin America, others to Europe and Africa. Venezuela has the largest oil exports of any nation in the world, and is second only to the United States in production. Although the largest operations are in the Maracaibo Amway region, there are important installations in eastern Venezuela as well. Here, the search for oil begins as a battle with the jungle. For in this undeveloped area, it is necessary to build trails and roads. The oil companies, each operating in concession areas granted by the Venezuelan nation, have played a leading part in opening up the East. The area is part jungle, part open prairie, and hardly any of it was inhabited before the exploration parties entered. The search for oil is not a matter of haphazard drilling. The first rig is a small portable one. Its purpose not to tap oil, but to set the scene for a scientific survey in a spot already picked by the geologists. An explosive charge is set in the first shallow hole. A portable seismograph will register the speed of shock waves from the explosion and thus indicate the various underground strata. From this information, the geologists and engineers will determine whether exploratory drilling for oil should begin. And so the jungle begins to open up, families settling as the wells go down. It's always a gamble when the first well is drilled in virgin territory. This one is already down 8,000 feet, and the oil has not yet started to flow. But eastern Venezuela is producing, and producing well. This is part of the Kirikiri field, one of 5 Creole has in the east. No one of them is as large as Maracaibo, but together they are a major factor in strengthening the world's production of crude oil. This town, with connecting highways, was built to house the oil field workers and those at the Carapito refinery. As at Amway, most of the output here is heavy fuel oil, with only enough gasoline to serve a few Latin American markets, including Venezuela itself. The route to domestic Venezuelan markets is difficult. First by tanker to the more populous areas, then by one of the world's most expensive pipelines across the mountains to Caracas. The Tacagua pipeline pumps refined products up 60 and 70-degree mountainsides in its path from the sea to Caracas. Constructed jointly by two oil companies, it cost almost $400,000 a mile to build. With transportation problems like this, and with low retail prices fixed by the government for some petroleum products, domestic marketing is largely a service to the country. And so, the Creole SO Oval appears wherever there is a Venezuelan need for petroleum. Service is good business, and it's a part of good citizenship. With over $1 billion invested in Venezuela, Creole is an important citizen, and therefore feels it is all the more important to be a good one. This company gives preference to Venezuelan citizens for employment in all categories. Overseas personnel are hired basically to train Venezuelans. Overseas employees number only 8%, although Venezuelan law would permit 25%. Salaries are generally higher than in the United States. Even an unskilled worker averages $4,400 a year in pay and benefits. Overseas personnel must learn Spanish, for all business is done in that language. All Americans must show ability to get along with Venezuelans, both on the job and socially. This meeting of company geologists is a typical gathering of upper echelon Creole technical personnel, with more Venezuelans than Americans. And among the Venezuelans is this girl, an accomplished and respected geologist. There are Venezuelans at the very highest level of the company, on the board of directors. Dr. Guillermo Zuloaga is Contact Director for Geology. Dr. Ciro Vasquez is Contact Director for Production. Other Venezuelans who are in key positions include Dr. Carlos Lander and Dr. Fred Baptista. The Creole plan will make company houses like this available to the families now occupying them on an ownership rather than a rental basis. Creole was originally forced to provide camps with its own utilities and public services because many were built in undeveloped areas. Now the company hopes to turn over many of these facilities to responsible local agencies, for its workers have achieved a level both of income and of responsibility with men doing comparable jobs anywhere in the United States. This worker's children now attend a school built by Creole, staffed by the company and operated by it. The goal is to end much of this, to reduce the worker's dependence on the company while giving him enough added income to pay for his new responsibilities. Workers' clubs and recreation facilities, however, are still provided at most installations. Medical care is available at all camps, sometimes in company-operated hospitals and sometimes in outside institutions. Personnel policies are based on the belief that a secure, responsible man is both a better worker and a better citizen of any country. This is the new Venezuela, being built with its own revenue from petroleum. Caracas is one of the showplaces of the Americas today because wise use has been made of the nation's income from oil, approximately half the profits on all petroleum sales. The national policy is to sow the petroleum back into the nation for physical construction, new industry, and public welfare, and Caracas is not the only example. The lake city of Maracaibo is becoming a true ocean port because oil revenues have paid for dredging the lake entrance. And this is a new boulevard in Maracay, the Garden City. Merida has nestled in the Andes for 400 years. The plaza is almost unchanged. But Merida has these apartments for its people. The operations of Creole alone provide more than $200 million a year for the modernization of Venezuela, a country which has jumped from an 18th century economy to this in less than 30 years. Where once there were empty valleys, there are now flourishing cities. The beauty of the old Spanish streets remains. But intercity traffic speeds over modern highways like the famed autopista. Statues of the beloved Simon Bolivar, the liberator, look out on his birthplace, Caracas. He led 6 South American countries to freedom. The famous art on display at the Pantheon in Caracas has not been forgotten. On the Great Plains, the llaneros, the plainsmen, celebrate in the old style. The ancient sport of toros coleados is still a favorite. On Sundays, great crowds flock to the bull rings, and the atmosphere is that of old Spain. But the new has arrived in sport too, and baseball is just as popular in Venezuela as it is in the United States or Japan. On the slopes of the Andes, oxen pull the plows as they have through the centuries. But in the fertile valleys, the farmer is building a new agriculture with machines. In the delta of the Orinoco, the thatched hut symbolizes the old way of life. But the new Venezuelan may live in a low-income housing project. If he needs medical care, he has access to hospitals as modern as any on Earth, for the sowing of petroleum has contributed significantly to the welfare of a people. The extension of medical services includes a nationwide anti-mosquito campaign which has almost wiped out malaria, once affecting 48% of the population. Creole assisted the government in starting this program in its camps and the surrounding towns. Compulsory free inoculations attack other diseases. Free chest x-rays are available to fight tuberculosis. There are prenatal clinics throughout the country and free classes in baby care. The pediatric clinic is an accepted part of Venezuelan life. This little fellow will live 10 years longer because the hospitals and the clinics have already added a decade to the life expectancy of every Venezuelan. The old practices still linger on in many places and in many fields, but wherever the new is better, it begins to replace the old. One of the greatest efforts is in industry. For Venezuelans know that their prosperity would be in danger if anything happened to the market for oil. Slowly, Venezuela is building a more diversified economy, sowing the profits from petroleum to develop new enterprises in other fields. The search for new resources has already turned up a whole mountain of iron ore. At Cerro Bolivar in southern Venezuela, the mining is done by power shovels in a concession operated through foreign investment. A new 90-mile railroad carries the ore through almost unexplored territory to the Orinoco River and the modern port. The next step will be a steel mill in the Orinoco area. U.S. firms of all types are taking the lead in developing Venezuela, for the country's happy experience with oil has created a good climate for other foreign investors, and they are being encouraged by Venezuela. New factories are going up all over. Each of them means new jobs for Venezuelans and new income to spread the prosperity further. But the flow of oil to the tankers is still the lifeblood of Venezuela. It provides the money for the new expansion. The tankers carry the oil of Venezuela to the markets of the world, and the money that comes from selling that oil is used not only within Venezuela, but for purchases abroad. On the busy main streets of Venezuela, the average man can do more than window shop today. This is a people newly arrived in the prosperous world of the 20th century, able for the first time to satisfy some of their hunger for the better things of life. The housewife can hope for an electric washer or freezer. The farmer wants a new tractor. For the first time, perhaps, he can afford it. The family expects many of the same foods as its northern neighbors. More and more people are getting them. Venezuela is growing in every way, and this is only the beginning. Venezuela is beginning to probe into the great interior, across the Andes, past the great plains they call the Llanos, into the teeming headwaters of the Orinoco, on beyond to the unexplored regions of the Grand Savannah, Here are some of the great wonders of the world, like Angel Falls, highest waterfall on Earth, which was not even discovered until 1937. Here, perhaps, is one of the great untapped sources of mineral wealth yet remaining in the world. Venezuela is a country bigger than France and Germany combined with the Low Countries added. A vast land, inhabited by less than 6 million people. Over half the country has not even been explored. For the first time, the means are at hand to develop this land, and the job is underway. Still in the forefront of Venezuela's development are the men of the oil industry. Creole is proud that oil is the symbol of this new and prosperous land. Proud that as a guest of Venezuela, it has been able to help in developing the resources of the country. And that the people of Venezuela are using the nation's wealth to build their own road to the future. A future made possible by people and petroleum.